Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie and today I'm here to do my Eurovision-a-thon wrap up. So I decided partway through May that I would split my wrap ups into Eurovision-a-thon and everything else, imagining that I was going to be reading a lot more for Eurovision-a-thon than I did get to, but I've decided to stick with this because it kind of works better. So for the readathon, I read 6 books. 3 of those books came off my TBR, and then I had 3 as digital copies. So we're going to go through what I read in order, what countries they were from, what I thought of them, etc. So I started off the readathon with SBQR by Mary Beard. This was for Italy, as it looks at the history of ancient Rome. I loved this book so much. One of the best books I think I've ever read. It's just, I was so impressed by this. I gave it 4.5 stars. Mary Beard has this way of writing where she tells you everything, but she kind of makes it feel like almost like you're watching like a documentary, or you're just having a conversation about it, and I really enjoyed that. I'm sorry if you can hear kids screaming in the background. The sun is out today, so my neighbours' kids are too. So that was my first read. Next up, I read Cinders and Sparrows by Stephen Buckman, which wasn't originally on my TBR, which I'll link below, but I'd bought this earlier this year and I was just like, it was part of a TBR for something else. Not really a TBR, a list of books that I had for a post. And I realised that the author spent a lot of his childhood in Switzerland and lives there now. So I was like, okay, there we go, Switzerland. I didn't have a book for Switzerland before, so it was perfect. This is a middle grade fantasy, and it reminds me a little bit of Withering by Sea, the Stella Montgomery series that I love. It kind of has that kind of feel to it a little bit, as well as, obviously it's different, and I really enjoyed it. And I also just realized that I totally messed that up, and I actually read something in between those two, which was the collected poems of Gillian Clarke. This was for the UK. Gillian Clarke is a Welsh poet, and I wasn't too fussed on these, to be honest. They were just poems. Kind of like, that's the best way I can describe them. Next up though, after Cinders and Sparrows, I read another amazing book, which was The Shamer's Daughter by Lena Kæberbøl. This was for Denmark, as the author is Danish. This is another middle grade fantasy. This one was just super sweet. It's a little dark in places, but it is really a story about friendship and finding friendship for the first time, and finding kind of your place in the world. So the kind of premise of this one is that the shamer is this woman who basically, when people look into her eyes, they basically like blurt out everything that they're ashamed about or feel guilty about. Boys. And so the shamer's daughter, the main character, is just coming into that power. And yeah, like, people won't look at her, they won't look in her eyes, they won't talk to her, she gets kind of bullied, and yeah, there's a whole adventure thing, and it's really sweet. and I'm really looking forward to reading the next few books in the next couple of weeks. Next up, I read In the Woods by Tana French. This was my book for Ireland. I started this at the start of the readathon and I only just finished it. Here's the thing, I was loving this at the start. I thought like this was going to be a 5-star book. I almost bought myself a physical copy. I was looking into the rest of the series because I was like, this is great, I love it. And then it kind of got to the point where they found who had committed the crime and I really didn't like that. And then it just like plummeted. I'm pretty sure I mentioned this in my blog, but at the end of the book I genuinely felt depressed. Like I felt like, and not in like a ha 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 I felt depressed kind of way, I mean like I genuinely felt like so affected by it and so like crushed, and not in like not in a way that, you know, it wasn't like something like what instantly comes to mind is The Great Believers, because it's one of my favorite books, where at the end of that I just like cried and it was really upsetting. But I could appreciate it. This one I just kind of felt like it was just like, there is no hope. Why would you need hope? And it just really crushed my soul. But yeah, not in a way that was like, you know, not in a way that I could appreciate. I do not know what these kids are doing. This kid is tearing apart one of my trees. Thanks for that, kid. Anyway, last book. I just managed to slip in Medea and Other Plays by Euripides, which was for Greece. And yes, I mostly enjoyed this. I think this was the first sort of thing that I read that was actually from ancient Greece. I don't know that I've read anything like that before. Like nothing comes to mind. But after SBQR, I was really in that mood and I just really wanted to read something. And this was the only thing that I had. So I did read it. And like I said, I mostly enjoyed it. Yeah, I'd be really interested in reading a retelling or especially like a feminist retelling of Medea or something like that. I think that would be a really interesting read, and I'm glad that I read this one. So that is the end of today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. I guess I'm just gonna go and try and do some work now and kind of hope that those kids weren't too loud in this video and that you could still hear everything, and also hope that I still have a tree by the end of today. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.